In the news tonight, the municipality of Jerusalem will consider requests for construction permits of hundreds of new homes in annexed areas, saying the permit requests were filed before the Security Council resolution. The Turkish president says he has evidence, including photos and videos, that the United States has been supporting terrorist groups, including Daesh and other Kurdish groups. And Russia gets hold of the main flight recorder from a military plane that crashed into the Black Sea on Sunday, killing all 92 on board, hoping it could help investigators identify the cause of the crash. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, received Minister of Foreign and Expatriate Affairs Nasser Joudeh, who handed him a written message from His Majesty King Abdullah. In his letter, His Majesty invites the Kuwaiti Emir to attend the Arab Summit Jordan is hosting in March, stressing the importance of his attendance in light of ongoing regional developments. Sheikh Sabah expressed his sympathies over the victims of the recent terror attacks in the southern city of Karak, which he said reaffirmed the need for concerted efforts to eradicate terror groups. The Jerusalem municipality, undeterred by a UN anti-settlement resolution, is due to consider tomorrow requests for construction permits for hundreds of new homes for Israelis in areas captured in 1967 and annexed to the city. An agenda published by Jerusalem City Hall listed applications for at least 390 new homes, whose approval looks certain to intensify international and Palestinian opposition to the Israeli settlement building. The Municipal Planning and Construction Panel usually meets on Wednesdays, and the permit requests were filed before the Security Council resolution. Haaretz newspaper reported that over 1,500 housing units for Israelis have already been approved in East Jerusalem this year, compared with 395 last year. Israel is still fuming over the UN resolution approved last Friday that demands an end to settlement activity in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem. To Syria, where the Syrian army, having regained control over Aleppo, is turning its sights on the capital. The Syrian army escalated the aerial bombing of a rebel-held valley northwest of Damascus in an offensive that began last week to recapture the strategic area where a major spring provides most of the capital's water supplies. Alongside the main spring in Wadi Barada, the area lies on the roads from Damascus to the Lebanese border that is used as a supply line for Hezbollah group, which is heavily involved in fighting alongside the Syrian army. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and his Turkish counterpart have agreed to push for a ceasefire in Syria and to prepare for the Astana peace talks. A statement by the Russian Foreign Ministry said Lavrov spoke with the Turkish Foreign Minister by phone. A separate statement said Lavrov also spoke with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and discussed with him a peace plan for Syria. The statement said Lavrov informed Kerry that a U.S. decision to ease some restrictions on arming Syrian rebels may lead to more casualties. Earlier in an interview with Interfax news agency, Lavrov said representatives from the Russian and Turkish militaries are holding consultations with the Syrian opposition about how a possible nationwide ceasefire might work. Lavrov said Russia, Iran and Turkey are ready to help broker a peace deal between the two sides after talks in Moscow, where they adopted a declaration setting the principles of a potential agreement. In Ankara, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan said he has evidence that U.S.-led coalition forces give support to terrorist groups, including Daesh and others. Speaking at a news conference, Erdogan said while the U.S. accuses Ankara of supporting Daesh, he pointed that he has evidence the U.S. has been giving support to terrorist groups, including the Kurdish YPG and the PYD. He said he has photos and videos to prove his claims.
Unfortunately, the coalition forces do not keep their promises. They made a promise, but they are in a different position now. But regardless of whether they keep their promises or not, we continue on our path with determination. It is impossible to return from this road.
Here at home, 2 infiltrators who attempted to cross the border into the kingdom from Syria were killed by border guards. A source at the Jannah headquarters of the Jordan Armed Forces Arab Army said the border guards applied the rules of engagement to abort the infiltration attempt, killing the 2 men. The military source said security forces also seized over 30 kilograms of Keptagon hallucination pills at the borders. Over to Iraq, and Prime Minister Haidar al-Abadi says it would take 3 months to eliminate Daesh as US-backed forces battle to dislodge the terrorists from their city stronghold of Mosul. Abadi previously said the city would be retaken by the end of this year, but Iraqi commanders say the operation has been slowed in order to protect civilians who have mostly opted to stay in their homes. More than 2 months into the operation, elite Iraqi soldiers have retaken a quarter of Mosul, but entered a planned operational refit this month. According to a U.S. battlefield commander, Iraqi forces would resume their offensive in the coming days in a new phase of the operation that will see American troops deployed closer to the front line inside the city. Meanwhile, hundreds of Iraqi civilians are being transported to camps after fleeing areas of eastern Mosul, which the army recently captured from Daesh. Iraqi security officials say they have seized nearly a quarter of eastern Mosul. Nearly 100,000 people have fled the city, according to the International Organization for Migration. Here's more.
On the outskirts of Bartella near Mosul, hundreds of Iraqis now freed from Islamic State control are trying to get even farther away. These men, women, and children fled the city and are now bound for camps to wait out the fighting. As some board buses, others recount the horrors of life in the self-proclaimed caliphate.
We left everything, our homes and belongings. Life under the Islamic State was bad. They treated us poorly. No one had any money. We are taking our children to the camps so we can live.
As Iraqi troops gain ground in Mosul, the militants have stepped up counterattacks, prompting nearly 100,000 residents to flee. This man getting a shave says IS can no longer force him to wear a beard.
We are now free of this burden on our faces.
One less burden in the lives of these residents wearied by war.
Russia has found the main flight recorder from a military plane that crashed into the Black Sea on Sunday, killing all 92 on board. The recorder, one of several reported to be on board, contains information that could help investigators identify the cause of Sunday's crash. We get more in this report.
Russian authorities have found a flight recorder from the Black Sea plane crash. The jet came down on Sunday, killing all 92 people on board. Russian agencies cited the defense minister saying the black box was discovered in the wreckage. It's one of several reported to be on board, and it contains information which could help investigators identify the cause of the crash. It'll be sent to a defense ministry facility in Moscow for analysis. Russia has now grounded all Tupolev 154 planes, according to a source named by Russian agency Interfax. They won't fly until it's understood why one of the aging Soviet models plunged into the sea. Investigators have so far said pilot error or a technical fault were the likely causes. The plane was carrying dozens of Red Army choir singers and dancers to Syria. They were planning to entertain Russian troops in the run-up to the new year. News agencies quoted the defense ministry saying search and rescue teams have so far recovered 12 bodies and 156 body fragments. Interfax cited a law enforcement source saying a second flight recorder had also been found, but not yet raised to the surface.
In business news, Wall Street was higher today with the Dow Jones Industrial Average resuming its climb towards 20,000 and the Nasdaq hitting a record as technology and health stocks rose. The blue chip index has been riding on a post-election rally, feeding on optimism that President-elect Donald Trump's plans for deregulation and infrastructure spending would bolster the economy. The Dow was up 0.17%, the S&P 500 was up 0.34%, and the Nasdaq Composite was up 0.71%. The S&P 500 index showed 20 new 52-week highs and 1 new low, while the Nasdaq recorded 124 new highs and 12 new lows. Below freezing temperatures, snow and icy roads menace the U.S. northern plains, forcing North Dakota and South Dakota to close major highways and warn people to remain indoors due to a winter storm that also swept across much of the Midwest. Temperatures between -9 to -4 degrees Celsius were expected from the lower Mississippi Valley to the Great Lakes. Nearly every highway across North Dakota and the western half of South Dakota was shut down or no travel advised. North Dakota's state capital, Bismarck, was hit by some 32 centimeters of snow. Further south, rain and thunderstorms were expected ahead of a cold front passing through eastern Texas, the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, and in the northeast. Actress Carrie Fisher, best known for her role as Princess Leia in Star Wars, has passed away at the age of 60 following a heart attack. She was flying from London to Los Angeles on Friday when she went into cardiac arrest. Paramedics had removed her from the flight and rushed her to a nearby hospital to be treated, but later died in the hospital. Fisher was an outspoken advocate for mental health awareness following her diagnosis with bipolar disorder. She is survived by her mother, daughter, and her beloved French bulldog.
How are you feeling?
With the end of 2016 just days away, people in the Japanese city of Osaka gathered for a ceremony to bid an early farewell to the Year of the Monkey and an early welcome to the Year of the Rooster. Monkeys were carried onto the stage on the shoulders of traditional Japanese kabuki actors, while roosters were cradled by organizers of the ceremony. The ceremony opened with a quick parody of the song Pen, Pineapple, Apple Pen. Unlike much of Asia, Japan celebrates New Year according to the Western calendar. China and South Korea will welcome in the New Year of the Rooster on their Lunar New Year on January 28th.
I have monkey, you have bird. Ooh, monkey bird.
And elsewhere in New York, with the New Year's Eve a few days away, preparations are underway for the iconic Times Square Waterford Crystal Ball Drop. Workers were busy today installing the last of the 288 new sparkling Waterford crystal triangles, featuring a new design for 2017 called the Gift of Kindness, and is meant to symbolize unity. Every year from 2013 to 2023, the New Year's Eve ball design follows a specific theme representing hopes that are cherished worldwide. Last year's theme was a gift of fortitude. Collectively, all hopes represent what is called the Greatest Gifts series. More than 1 million people are expected to gather together in Times Square to hail the arrival of 2017.
Getting that beautiful Waterford crystal.
Colombia aviation authorities are saying that it was human error that led to the Colombia soccer plane crash last month. Errors by the pilot, airline, and Bolivian regulators are to blame for the crash that killed 71 people, including most of Brazil's Chapecoense soccer team, the aviation authorities said. They said the plane crashed because the pilot failed to refuel en route and did not report engine failures until it was too late. The plane was also over its weight limit by nearly 400 kilograms and was not certified to fly at the altitude at which the journey took place. The aircraft was transporting the Chapecoense team to the biggest game in its history, the final of the Copa Sudamericana. All but 3 of the players and staff on board were killed. 2 crew members and 1 journalist also survived.
The important thing to point out is that the cause of the accident was that it ran out of fuel and had a flight plan on a route under which the amount of fuel and autonomy of the Avro RJ-85 team was not adequate or in accordance with performance tables. The flight was not equipped to go forward.
And finally, cold and rainy weather continues for the rest of tonight with possible snowfall on hilly areas 1,100 meters above sea level. Most regions should also expect frosty conditions in the late hours of the night. Tomorrow, a slight rise in temperature is in the forecast, but it remains cold with partly cloudy skies and southwesterly moderate winds. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect fair conditions with northerly moderate to brisk winds and slightly high seas. The weatherman warns of frosty conditions in most regions in the late hours of the night, as well as poor visibility due to fog, while the low-lying areas are cautioned against flash floods due to heavy rain. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. The municipality of Jerusalem will consider requests for construction permits of hundreds of new homes in annexed areas, saying the permit requests were filed before the Security Council resolution. The Turkish president says he has evidence, including photos and videos, that the United States has been supporting terrorist groups, including Daesh and other Kurdish groups. And Russia gets hold of the main flight recorder from a military plane that crashed into the Black Sea on Sunday, killing all 92 on board, hoping it could help investigators identify the cause of the crash. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Aliyah Tuqan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.